Hey guys, this is Austin Leap here, and today's sermon is going to be basically just about a God who sees and a God who hears everything that's going on, and just seeing God work in your life. So I'm going to start this off with a story. Actually, it's been a while since I've heard this story, so I kind of may drop some of the details, but I'll get you guys the gist of it. So there's this guy who he was married, and his wife was very sick. And the nearest hospital to him was up and over this mountain. Okay, it wasn't very far from one point to another, but because he had to go up and over this mountain, it took forever to get her medications, right? And she was too sick to move up and over the mountain as well, so he was running back and forth all day. And he would get her medications, and it would be enough to get her to the next day. Then he would have to climb the mountain again and back, just to do it again the next day. And he would do this every day. Eventually what happened was his village that was on the other side of this mountain, it was inconveniently placed. So what happened eventually was his wife had passed away. And this guy decided, never again, no one else is going to have to go through this. So what he did was he started busting up pieces of the mountain by himself, and he cut a path straight through the mountain to the nearest hospital. I think it was something about like 5 kilometers or something. It wasn't very far. But he cut a path right through this mountain so that the next person who needed medication could just walk a straight path instead of having to go up and over a mountain. So this guy, it took like 25 years or something to do this. This guy by himself did that. And, there's a lot to say about that. I mean, like, obviously it's rooted in tragedy, but this guy was able to move a mountain by himself so that no one else would have to go through what he went through. I mean, that's just crazy. But I've had this one question that was asked a few years ago that has kind of been ringing through my head for a little bit. And that question was, when you take a look at your life, how could you say that God's real based off of your life? Right? I mean, you got Evans syndrome, you got ADA2 deficiency, whatever. I mean, it's been horrible. You've had GI bleeds, brain bleeds, or a brain bleed, all sorts of things. You've had blood clots in your lungs, and you didn't really do anything to deserve that. So, how could you believe in God and whatever? At the time, the way I responded was, God never promised us an easy life. What he promised us was actually that the world and the devil would reject us. The devil would test us, right? It's basically what I gathered from the Bible anyway. So, but didn't really have a concrete answer at the time. That was just kind of it. So I'm going to bring you guys back to when this all started. Well, not all of it starting, but the cancer itself. So I was diagnosed with large T-cell granular lymphocytic leukemia, which is actually a very rare kind of cancer. It's a lymphocytic leukemia, so it's looks a lot like a lymphoma, looks a lot like a leukemia. So they just basically labeled it a leukemia, but it's been called lymphoma a number of times. I always wanted to know the distinction. They weren't really able to give me one. So anyway, so what happened was my Evans syndrome had mutated into this T-cell granular leukemia. So I had that happen, and then we started treatments, and the treatments went till about halfway through where the treatments were supposed to go, and then like halfway through the timeline, And then what happened was I got an infection called CMV. It's a virus, okay? So I got this virus called CMV, and usually, the doctor puts you on some medications, and it's about 2 weeks or so, and then you're past it. Mine took 8.5 months to get through. In that 8.5 months, my grandpa was diagnosed with cancer. And after the 8.5 months, I got through it, got it treated, and was able to continue the treatments and complete them. In that time, my grandpa got a surgery done in which he had the tumor cut out. So my grandpa beat cancer then. And they checked him over for cancer. They said, you're cancer-free, whatever. So my grandpa beat cancer, and then I'm now set to go in for my bone marrow transplant, which will get rid of my cancer. So I go in, like, it's very close to the day that I'm supposed to, I think it was the next day I was supposed to actually get the PICC line put in. Then what happened was, the central line. What happened was I got jaundice, kind of just out of nowhere. It just happened. I got jaundice, and we needed to treat that. So spiked my prednisone dose up really high, 85 milligrams a day, and then we were trying to treat that. So I stayed in the hospital for about a week. The day after I was admitted to hospital, though, for jaundice, my grandpa got cancer again. Only this time they said, it's terminal, you won't last longer than a week. My grandpa is really tough, though, so he survived for 2 weeks while fighting it. After that, the doctors told me that we don't feel right about putting you through this transplant now because your counts are all over the place. So what we're going to do is we're going to send you home. So they sent me home in time for me to see my grandpa twice, and I was able to be there when he passed, attend the viewing and the burial, and just enough time to reset my focus and get back on track towards the bone marrow transplant and get it all treated. Okay. My bone marrow transplant actually took way earlier than the doctor thought it was going to, and I'm actually one of the fastest people to get through my kind of transplant and get sent home. So now I'm home, and just through all this, it's been just incredible. So, like, I was supposed to be barely admitted into hospital, and then all this stuff was supposed to happen to my grandpa, but God, in all his wisdom, decided to allow me to get jaundice, which spiked my prednisone dose and then sent me home so I could be there with my family during this time. So I could see my grandpa before he passed. All this stuff, all this, just this amazing stuff, right? So I was able to be there, and that's just amazing to me. And then enough time to refocus and get through the transplant. And again, I'm one of the fastest people to get through my kind of transplant. So that's just insane to me, right? That's just crazy to me. But, that's just one of the reasons that this is the merriest Christmas of my life, because the cancer was actually not as bad as the Evans syndrome that preceded it. And the cancer was not as bad as the ADA2 deficiency. I feel neither of them right now. I actually feel quite good. But it's just incredible to me. So this is one treatment, okay, that got rid of the ADA2 deficiency, the Evans, which had mutated already into the cancer, and the cancer itself. Okay, and that's just incredible to me. But there's another thing too. I asked the doctor this recently. I said, so I don't, the way I worded it, I think, was, I don't care to know how many people Goliath's sword has killed before the transplant, before going in against Goliath. I really don't care to know that then. But afterwards, you better believe it, I want to know. So, not before the transplant. I don't want to know before the transplant, but afterwards, I want to know what stage it was. So I asked my doctor what stage it was. And he said, well, your cancer is difficult to stage. But he said, if it hits the bone marrow, which yours did, it's stage 4. So God intentionally blocked this part from my mind so I would fight clear-headed, beat stage 4 cancer. Okay, because mine was in the bone marrow, right? That's insane. That's just crazy to me, right? This giant was far bigger than I thought it was. But, I still had to knock out 2 other giants too, right? The Evans syndrome and the ADA2. That's crazy. And the transplant itself was kind of difficult to get through, so we'll add that one in as a 4th. That's just crazy to me, right? Now we'll go back again, okay? So in the beginning of this whole thing, we knew that my wife and I want to start a family, right? So, there's a lot of trying and stuff before I went in, because we kind of figured this is our kind of last shot. And I kept saying to my wife, I did turn to my wife and I said, with everything that God's been doing in my life, there's not a chance that you get to the other side of this transplant and you're not pregnant. She was like, well, hang on. I was like, no, but seriously, this is what's going to happen. It was weird, but I just told her that. So leading up until, from I don't know, 6 months beforehand until about a month before the jaundice hit, we had gone through a fertility clinic that had deemed that I was completely sterile. There was nothing. Very much so, nothing. And so that was sort of tough to swallow, but we kept praying and we kept trying and whatever. And then I got the jaundice. Okay. The month of the jaundice, we took another fertility test, and it proved that I actually had a small sample of very immobile, a very small immobile sample, right? So, but it was there. It was there this time. Then the jaundice hit. Like I said, went into the hospital. Doctors. Before the jaundice hit, I said to my wife, maybe I should just spike my prednisone dose, because prednisone at a high enough dose is supposed to just encourage fertility, right? Supposed to up your fertility levels. So I said that kind of as a joke. Then I got jaundice. While I was in the hospital with jaundice, the doctor spiked my prednisone dose to 85 milligrams a day. For those of you guys who don't know, I couldn't blink at nighttime. I was just wired the whole time. Then I get sent home for a month. And then it's off to the transplant again. So, guys, this is just insane to me. Like, take a look at my life, okay? I'm going to answer the question I asked earlier. Based on my life, how could you not believe in a God? Right? I mean, really, look at my life. Based on my life, how could you not believe in a God? I mean, that's just insane to me. So I'm going to leave you guys with, one of the reasons this is the merriest Christmas of my life. It's obviously because I'm ADA2 deficiency. I'm without that. I'm without the Evans syndrome. I'm without the cancer. I'm past the transplant. Okay? Just like David, I took 5 stones. Okay? And I'm going after the image of the devil next. Because he's just, so many people are so afraid of him, even though they have Christ on their side. But guys, when you are a man anointed by God, man or a woman anointed by God, okay, then man, you can just walk right through these things. It's insane. Just like Matthew 17, verse 20 says, right? If you have faith like a grain of mustard seed, then you will say to this mountain, move from here to there, and it will move for you. And nothing will be impossible for you. Guys, when you are a man anointed, when you are anointed by God, you can make these calls. And it's just insane. When you are in communication with God, you can make these calls, and it's just incredible. Guys, I'm going to leave you now with the reason that this is the greatest Christmas of my life ever. Take care. God bless. And I'll see you guys.